You've planned for months Disney World and a Disney cruise, the ultimate dream vacation, right? You've got the outfits, the dining reservations, the magic bands. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turns out a few things. From park strategy slip-ups to cruise day chaos, we had a blast, but also we learned a lot. So stick around and hear what we loved and the mistakes we'll never make again, so your Disney World and sea trip can be even more magical. Hey there! At the time of filming, this is now summer and we are in the thick of a lot of different family trips, and we have learned a lot already as we've kicked off the summer season. Our family does do a decent amount of travel throughout the summer months, and I thought this was a great opportunity to share kind of a series of some of my favorite packing tips, as well as things that have gone sideways on family trips, all the way to also how I manage my ADHD and anxiety while traveling. So for today's video, I'm actually going to start out with a huge family trip that required a lot of planning, and that is going to the Walt Disney World parks, as well as a 3-night Bahamian cruise. If this is not a trip that is on your radar and it is not in your wheelhouse, feel free to check out some of the links that I'm going to include with some other family vacations or trip planning that works best for you. But the focus of this video isn't necessarily a review of my trip. It's more about what went well, but also mostly what went sideways and what I wish I knew, especially trying to manage my ADHD and anxiety traits while traveling in a group. So that's really the main focus. So I think in many ways, it's some of these things I learned are very transferable to a lot of different other trips you could be taking. I'd like to start out by saying it was an awesome trip. There are so many highlights and wonderful things I could share. If you're interested in a Disney parks planning video or anything like that, please put it in the comments, because I love Disney. But at the same time, I know that Disney's not for everyone. So, but it is a place in my heart. So without further ado, let's talk really quickly about what my trip entailed, some of my favorite highlights, and then we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of maybe how we could have done things better. So really quickly, what was the rundown of this trip? This trip I started planning about 6 months ago. We booked a 3-night cruise around Christmas time in December, and then we sailed at the end of June. But we also knew that we wanted to tack on a couple nights at the Disney parks, because we love Walt Disney World, and we've never done this type of trip where it's a combination of parks but then also going on a cruise. So we stayed in the Epcot resort area at the Swan and Dolphin. We stayed at the Swan. That was a highlight. I loved the location of it. It was awesome. It was easy. We got to use Marriott points, and so because of that, we decided to splurge on the Premier Pass for Magic Kingdom, which I can tell you all about, and it was great. So that was definitely a highlight. We were gonna spend 2 nights. We were gonna do Hollywood Studios after hours. And I really recommend that for anyone that does struggle with crowds, because it was at night. It started at 9 p.m. and went until 12:30 in the morning. You could enter the park as early as 7 p.m. with typical crowds, but it was just calmer, and it's great for any family that just has some neurospiciness that you just want lower crowds. So that was definitely a highlight. We were gonna have one big park hopper day the next day, and it was our goal to hit those 3 other parks, and we did it. But we got a little burned by doing that, and we'll talk about that later. And then the 3rd day at Walt Disney World was really just our embarkation day on the cruise. It was a 3-night cruise that stopped in Nassau, Bahamas, and then also Castaway Cay, which is Disney's private island, and then flying home on a Monday. So our trip was 5 total nights, Wednesday through Monday. So, well, what did we love? We loved the Swan. We loved Hollywood late night. The Epcot fireworks were just, like, when you go to Disney, you just have to see fireworks to get all of your money's worth. So that was a really great way to end our park hopper day. We also really loved just seeing some new attractions and treating the trip kind of like our fan favorites. We're a family that feels very fortunate. We've been able to go to the parks a couple times, and it was really just kind of our greatest hits. We were celebrating a big birthday in our family for this trip, so it was really about celebrating that family member and making sure that we hit kind of those top lists. The cruise ship was beautiful. I can't say enough positive things about how Disney just really treats its customers well, and we felt very well taken care of, and the kids clubs were just 10 out of 10. So those were definitely some big highlights of the trip. But now let's talk about what went sideways. Whenever I am planning a vacation, I really, like, most people are like, what do you want to do? Like, what am I so excited about? But for me, I tend to start from a negative perspective to say, what could go wrong? And there's not enough information out there, I think, about what can go wrong. So really briefly, let's start first from a catastrophizing perspective, because that's where I thrive, and those are the details that I really craved before going on this trip. Number one is, don't pack in too much in a day. And that's really hard for those of us that are maybe a little neurospicy and you're time blind and you're like, sure, I can do 3 parks in one day, no problem. Maybe you can, but you also need to realize you're traveling with a group and you are not an isolated bubble. So, starting with number 1, the Disney Park app has a pretty good and pretty accurate time estimate for those wait times, but they can be wrong. So we rolled the dice once and I was more confident with, sure, we can hop in this line, and what was supposed to be a 45-minute wait, and I thought it was going to be less, it did the opposite, and it was actually over a 60-minute wait for an attraction. And when you're in line for 55 minutes with 2 children at the age of 8 and 11, they're not getting out of that line in order to get to the thing you originally planned to do, which was really the light show on the Chinese theater at Hollywood Studios. We've never seen it, and it's just, it would have been nice, you know? So time blindness got us a little in trouble. So I really recommend make your top list for the day to say, we really have to hit these things for my heart to be full. And that way you just know that you're at least getting to those things, and then work around them. So in hindsight, we should have pumped the brakes and we should have said, before we hop in this line, let's just go shopping, or let's get a snack, or let's do some people watching while sipping some Joffrey's coffee, because that's always a grand investment. So that was a mistake. Next one is really the fact that you're traveling with a group, and as much as my enthusiastic planning and my spreadsheets can keep us organized for the day, we had a member in our party that, although we had a great time at the late night Hollywood Studios event that we went to, we didn't get back to our room until after 12:30 in the morning. And the 8-year-old, like, he never stays up that late. So it's just unrealistic to expect them to be ready to rally the next day, to be in a good mood. They're like, those of us that really struggle with ADHD, anxiety, you're neurospicy, like, sleep, there's science that's like, sleep is extra needed for those of us, because our dopamine is just like not registering on all pistons. It's just not working. So you have to have a full night's sleep to be your best self the next morning. That goes for anyone. And it made for a very hard day the next day, which as a result kind of backfired on us when we were trying to use the Premier Pass. If you're not familiar with Premier Pass, it's basically the creme de la creme way to skip the line at any of the Disney parks, but it's very expensive. The way we rationalized that we should go ahead for this splurge was, why not? FOMO. 2, big birthday we were celebrating. And 3, we didn't pay for hotel fare because we used Marriott points. So kind of rationalized it that way, but it did feel like a rushed experience based on just the tired members of our party that could not stay in that park longer than we did. So we missed out on some things. Which then brings me to my third point, which is it's important to listen to your group when you're traveling, and it's everyone's vacation. But I found myself trying to cater to members of my party that were whining or upset or stressed. My partner got stressed at one point, and I was multiple points of the day, and I felt like I constantly was trying to cater to them. But as a result, I didn't speak up, and I didn't actually advocate for my own vacation, and so I missed out on some of my favorite rides, and that was kind of a bummer. You can't do it all in Disney, but it's really important, I think, that make sure, I'm a recovering people pleaser, as I say often, that you, just because someone's in a bad mood doesn't mean that you have to, and you can work together to find a solution, whether that's splitting up or taking turns elsewhere, and that is kind of what we did. So I split up with my daughter in order to go on another attraction, but we just couldn't fit it all in. So that was kind of something that really went bad. Another thing I would say is just some small details that my daughter's magic band. So you get these things at Disney World, kind of, this is my Fitbit, but it just snaps onto your wrist, and it's a way to get on attractions with skip the line service, or your tickets are on it. And they're known for being a little flimsy for how important these things are. It just fell off my daughter's wrist. It like snapped off as she was reaching over a toilet in order to flush. It fell into the toilet and went down the drain. Literally, she literally flushed it away. And that was just really hard for her to recover from it. And so it kind of ruined the day. So next time we're gonna get those little band clips that just do it better, and make sure that could avoid some serious disappointment. My last point of things that went sideways and are just good tips to remember in general is taking care of yourself when you're on vacation. It's easy to get swept up into the details of the day and keeping everyone organized, having fun and getting lost in the fun. But as a total amateur, when I was on Disney's private island, I was focused on making sure the kids' needs were met and everything, but I forgot to reapply sunscreen, which I almost never do. And I went snorkeling, and my back just got like completely scorched, like so bad. And so it just was a nice reminder that although you're having fun, although you're trying to pack in everything, take the time to stop and remember, if you're reapplying sunblock to your own kids, don't forget yourself. Like, your oxygen mask first, right, on an airplane. So don't forget to do that, because I literally got burned from a fair lass. So don't forget to do that. Next, we're talking about things I wish I did differently in terms of spending. I know that with spending when you're on vacation, sometimes you're just making quick decisions and you're like, whatever, I'm on vacation, and that's fun. But definitely sticking to a budget is a challenge. And I made probably some impulsive decisions when going on vacation, and next time I really want to just be more mindful of it, so that way, one, you don't have sticker shock when you get that bill at the end of vacation, but also just knowing what's going to work best for your group. Things that were a little tricky, as I mentioned with Premier Pass, it was so much fun to be able to just say, peace out, queue, I'm gonna skip the line. In order to really maximize that service, I recommend a good night's sleep, not doing anything before the park that you're going to really get everything you want out of that experience. We kind of self-sabotaged because we didn't prioritize sleep, and that was a mistake. So that is something that we learned, but it was still a lot of fun in order to use. Two is the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If you're not familiar with this service, it's where a lot of girls in particular, anyone can get dressed up like a princess, and there's a makeover and it's fun. I was aware of it at the Disney parks, but I didn't realize that it was also something on cruise ships. And although my daughter is past the point where she doesn't want necessarily a princess makeover, there's pirate night on the ship, and I was like, how fun would it be if we got makeovers for pirate night? My mistake was not reading the fine print that starting at $65 was the package for that evening, but costumes go all the way up to about $250-ish per child. And so you're shelling out over $500 if your kids get the full costume package, and that was just not what we were going to do. So there was a lot of disappointment with my kids when they realized they weren't going to get a costume, but we were going to stick with face paint. And my son really does not do well with face paint. He really does not like the sensory aspect of that. So although he sat through it, he was just in tears afterwards and wanted to just wash the whole thing off. And so he felt really badly. He even, apologized, which I was like, the mama heart in me is like, oh gosh, buddy, like I just wanted you to have fun. Like we don't care. But in hindsight, just sharing those details with your kids to be like, this is what the experience actually is. My daughter loved it. She had a great experience. But my son, it just was not great for a kid who does not like the sensation of brushes on your face or anything like that, especially with eye makeup. So that was a slight mistake. And then related to that also, we have snorkeled in the past, but on Castaway Cay, we did get snorkeling gear. And my kids were just having a really hard time with the mask that we were renting. It was $25 for the day for them, but as much as like $50 for an adult to have it for the day. So it was so expensive in our eyes that my husband was like, I don't need to do this. Just go with the kids. But then my son got sunblock in his eyes and he couldn't recover from it. And so he didn't end up actually snorkeling. So we probably could have gone to guest services to explain the situation, but we just didn't. But that was kind of like, and so something to consider and just finding better ways to try to recover from that. But we were out, another 25-ish bucks from that. Lastly, souvenir drinks. Souvenir drinks are really fun. We sometimes, splurge here and there. We thought it would be fun to splurge on it for one evening with our kids, and we got some really fancy, cool drink for our kids at dinner one night, and they could have cared less. They were like, sure. And they took like 2 sips from it, and they were like, it's like a melted milkshake. Like, I don't need to drink this. And I was like, okay. And so although, it was fun to try to do something different, they could have loved it, who knows, but really just a friendly reminder, stick with what your kids love, and then I think you'll have just such a better, smoother nighttime experience. Like you can spend your money elsewhere. And the final takeaways. The final takeaways was we loved our trip. It was smooth. All that extra planning really paid off, and we just had a really great time. The only thing that went really sideways, which was of no fault of anyone except the Philadelphia airport, was that when we landed, it took us an hour and 40 minutes to get our bags from the tarmac to baggage claim. And that is a Philadelphia problem. Philly just needs to do better. But it was a lot of fun. I think as a family that really does need more sleep in order to thrive, in order to space things out to make things a little less overwhelming, I think a 5-night cruise really would be our ideal sweet spot. Disney is just so expensive that I think the price point and pairing that with a 2-night stay at the parks was perfect for this trip. But if we were to cruise again with Disney Cruise Line, we would really love to save our pennies and try to have a longer stay, because it's just so much of unpacking, getting the room ready, go, and then you have to pack up just 2 more nights after that. And that's just a lot. It's just a lot for anyone. So The Disney Cruise Line, again, they do a phenomenal job. They lived up to the hype. The ship was beautiful. The character interactions, the kids clubs, the food was phenomenal. Those were all things that were major highlights. But what we learned for our family is that we are a family that won't be going to Disney always. We realized that we could probably take our family on a lot of other trips just to see the world, even though Epcot, there's all the worlds. I think that it's important for us to realize that we've vacationed with friends before on a cruise, and they just love playing at the pool, and it doesn't matter where we are, as long as we're together, it's an amazing trip. So I think it is just a friendly reminder that it's the people you're with that can really make the trip, and certainly environmental factors and where you are, you want to make sure that it's a good fit for your family. But I think our family for sure is interested in sailing again, but then also trying some other cruise lines as well, because we love cruising and we love the all-inclusive aspect, and I don't have to think about what's for dinner. I just need to point at a menu, and I just love that. If you're interested in more travel tips, please check out some of the other videos that I'm going to be posting. I'm going to talk a lot about my packing prep, how I love using Google in order to help plan for my trips. But let me know in the comments about some of your experiences, if you have sailed with Disney before, or also your park tips and tricks. I'd love to hear them, or maybe what's gone wrong on your own vacation, because I love learning about what could go wrong and then working backwards, because sometimes that's when anxiety is a superpower. I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have an awesome day.